Today's talk is on the 10 habits of the highly sleep deprived. My name is Dr. Jonathan Sikorsky, and I'm a licensed pain and health psychologist at Tria Orthopedics in Bloomington and Woodbury. So, when we talk about sleep, it's becoming a pretty salient issue right now in the media, and you often hear about different sleep experts and their opinions on how people sleep, and even down to like different positions. So, you can see here we have the sleep position of a teacher, a lawyer, an engineer, or if you're one of the lucky ones that gets to be an essential worker during this time. Want to put a little shout out to all of our essential workers. We appreciate what you do, often a thankless and, as you can see, sleepless job. So, sleep deprivation was declared a public health problem back in 2006, and it has just kind of grown exponentially since then. It's estimated that over half of Americans are sleep deprived, and almost 1 in 3 sleep less than 6 hours a night. For some of you, that might sound like a little. For others, that might sound like a lot, but it has a pretty detrimental effect on our health and our well-being. So right now, in a country of about 325 million, we have 20% of people with insufficient sleep. And the cumulative effects of sleep disorders are starting to become a public health problem. And there's pretty good reason for this. If we look at moderate sleep loss, we know that it's bad. And that's putting it in the layman's term, but we know that moderate sleep loss is associated with an increased secretion of pro-inflammatory cytokines. It's a fancy word for inflammation, and if you're following what's going on with COVID right now, you'll hear about like the cytokine storm and all of this type of thing. Well, when we sleep, our body actually flushes out those types of inflammatory cytokines. So inflammation in the body goes down, pain levels go down, and it can help with our cellular immunity as well. Shorter refracted sleep is also associated with decreases in circulating human growth hormone levels, which is, again, a thing that helps with muscles, testosterone, hormones, all of that. It's also associated with the lesser ability to regulate our appetite, reduced leptin, and elevated ghrelin. So this is pretty much a fun kind of science fact here, but the more sleep deprived you are, the more your body becomes insulin resistant. So those cravings for simple carbohydrates are a real thing due to lack of sleep. And as we know, if I'm sure everyone here, with or without kids, but working within a medical field, you have increased work-related errors when we are tired, lethargic, and things like that. So it's pretty bad. But what we're going to do right now is go over the 10 habits of the highly sleep deprived. So instead of giving you the things you should do right away, I'm going to talk about the 10 habits of people who struggle with sleep quality and sleep routines. So number 10, sleeping in a hot room. This may make or break your marriage depending on where you're at, but usually there's someone who likes to be really cozy and warm and someone else who doesn't want any ounce of fabric touching them. But generally speaking, sleeping in a room at around 68 to 70 degrees is associated with better sleep. So consuming caffeine after 2 o'clock p.m., this is kind of a no-brainer, but the older we get, the less caffeine or the less inhibitors we have for caffeine, so the stronger the impact caffeine has on our bodies. So even though you were able to chug down a couple Red Bulls and energy drinks in high school and in college, now a cup of coffee after 2 p.m. might result with a delayed sleep onset. Rigorous exercise 3 hours before bed. Again, this has to do with the adrenaline and cortisol within the body. When we get our heart rate elevated and we get all of those hormones again going throughout the body, it often can result in delayed sleep onset just because we're feeling kind of revved. Eating a large late night meal. Again, we're not in college anymore, so late night pizza, not only will you have weird dreams, but you'll also have to deal with, heartburn and, again, delayed sleep onset. This also can happen with late night, drinking a lot of water, having to wake up again with trips to the restroom. Going to bed angry. This is probably becoming more and more salient the longer quarantine goes on. I'm seeing less and less of the hashtag I'm so blessed or he's my man kind of things going on Facebook. As people are in quarantine, relational stress goes up. There's a bigger propensity to have arguments and fights. And as these things tend to accumulate over time, going to bed angry becomes more and more of a problem. So try to vent out or discuss safely disagreements that you may be having so you're not stewing. Number 5 is watching the clock. Clock checkers are kind of one of the most common sleep issues that I run into in clinic. People who just routinely check their cell phones, check their digital clocks. This habit tends to increase like the rumination and obsession with sleep and sleep onset, and tends to increase sleep problems. Number 4, not having a set bedtime or wake time. This is also becoming a larger issue with the patients I see. Again, we don't know what day it is. I put the "what year is it" meme here, but people are saying, have a day. We don't even know if it's Tuesday or Friday or whatever, but people's sleep schedules tend to start to flip when we don't retain or maintain a sleep schedule. So bedtimes become later and later, wake times become later. And what do? We try to compensate with napping, which is not a great idea. Number 3, using your bed as an office space. This again is often common as I'm going over this PowerPoint. I'm literally in my walk-in closet, so I understand that space is limited. But using your bed as an office space breaks what we call the sleepy association of your bedroom. There are 2 approved, shall we say, activities for your bed. One is sleeping. I'll let you figure out what the other one is. But the bed, generally speaking, if you're going to do homework, if you're going to watch movies, try to do that in a place outside of your bed, so you develop a sleep association with your bed. Number 2, you're just too stressed out. So feelings of worry and stress, and I don't know anyone not in that camp right now, can lead to lack of sleep. Lack of sleep leads to you feeling tired. When you're tired, you have difficulty coping with daily life, daily struggles. Your self-esteem goes down. You start feeling those feelings of worry start to build up, and round and round and round we go. So the more stress that we have with lacks of outputs or just stress regulating activities increases the amount of stress that we deal with. There's a cumulative effect again. We ruminate before we go to bed, and all of a sudden our sleep is adversely impacted. And number 1, I'll let you take a guess here, but it's a pretty common one. Too much screen time before bed. So if you're like about 85% of Americans, your cell phone is the first thing you pick up in the day and the last thing you put down. The average person checks their phone 165 times a day. Primarily, we do it a lot before bed. Well, the LED lights from the screen in the phone go through your rods and cones of your eyes to the substantia nigra and delays the release of melatonin. So we don't feel sleepy. The general recommendation here from the American Academy of Pediatrics is to limit screen time about 45 minutes before going to bed. So what can we do about it? We went through kind of the 10 habits of people who aren't great at sleeping, but what can we do to develop better, safer, sustainable sleep habits? One is just developing a relaxing routine. Whether that's a warm bath or shower, quiet activities, doing puzzles, lowering the lights, using a Kindle instead of an iPad are all kind of things that you can do. Maintaining a regular sleep schedule, so trying to go to bed and getting up around the same time every day. Generally speaking, if you're napping more than 20 minutes at a time and more than one time a day, you're sleep deprived. And you might say, well, I need to nap because I feel tired. That's exactly what we want, because you want to fall asleep within 30 minutes of going to bed. So try to limit those naps. And limiting stimulating behaviors before going to bed. So no caffeine after 2. Try to limit alcohol after dinner. There's kind of mixed results on that recommendation. Some people need a glass of wine to help fall asleep. Generally speaking, in broad strokes, it can help delay sleep onset. Trying to limit large or spicy meals, no more chicken wings at 10 p.m. Trying to limit vigorous exercise, 4 to 6 hours before bed. Other things you can do are just learning, relaxation techniques, using ambient noises on your phone or Alexa or whatever devices, learning the relaxation response, which is a type of meditation. You'll hear kind of more and more about the vagus nerve in the body. Doing low and slow belly breaths tends to express that vagus nerve, which again helps us relax. Turns out it's also very good if you're having, issues with your lungs related to COVID. Maintaining a regular physical activity routine. Again, 30 minutes of exercise at 60 to 70% maximum heart rate. Didn't hurt anybody. Try not to go to bed too hungry or too full. Using a sleep diary. This is kind of an archaic version one. I'm going to show you a different one that you can use. And practicing stimulus control. Use your bed for sleeping. So get an app. There are about 3 billion apps that you can use. Some of them will help with your sleep. Others will keep you awake. But these are examples of different ones to help deal with stress, PTSD if you're someone working on the front lines. CBTI Coach is one I use a lot for myself and with patients to look at sleep quality, sleep duration, and sleep efficiency. Breathe Easy Free is a great paced breathing app to help work on that resonant frequency breathing for heart rate variability. And Headspace right now is free. If you are a medical provider, you can type in your license number and get access to their full suite, which is really nice. So let's say you were a 33-year-old. This was a couple years ago for me. Struggle with lifelong insomnia. Typically slept only about 4 to 6 hours a night, which was great in grad school, but not when you have 2 young children. So I use the CBTI Coach app so I can get off of sleep medication. Over the course of 5 weeks, you can see my data there. Had a nice increase from sleeping only around 58% of the time all the way up to almost 90%. So falling asleep within 15 to 30 minutes of going to bed. The CBTI app is an app that if you were to see any type of sleep specialist, they'd have you do. It's basically 5 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia for free. And it works really well. Goes through sleep routines, healthy habits, all of that. So just try to remember that sleep is the golden chain that binds health and our bodies together. I hope that this presentation gave you a couple different strategies that you might want to try during this trying time to help improve your sleep and overall wellness and well-being. And as always, I like to show my work, so different articles here on sleep, more articles, a couple books, different resources. The sleep diary is actually from the National Sleep Foundation. So with that, I hope that you found this presentation helpful, and most importantly, I hope you can all be well.